to a citizen, fool. Citizen to a citizen, fool.
Key to life.
Another one.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right. Welcome back, citizens. Back with another episode of
Pose.
So, yeah, in my previous episode, we covered this LA concealed carry holder who had to fight off two assailants that jumped his fence at his home. He had a wall. I wouldn't even call it a fence. It was a wall. It looks like an iron or steel gate. He was at his door, pushing a key in his door, and two assailants jumped the wall, put a gun to his back, and he fought them off using his firearm, exercising his two-way right, and he was a concealed carry weapons permit holder. And I thought that was great. You know, there were some media outlets that covered it, some that didn't. So it didn't get a lot of attention. It got a decent amount of attention if you were looking for it, but if you weren't looking for it, you would have never known. Anyway, fast forward to last week, I think it was Friday or Saturday, Eisener's Tactical reached out and asked if I saw this, and he sent me a clip. And basically it was a clip showing that the LAPD or the sheriff's office suspended or revoked this gentleman's CCW permit post this incident. I'm going to roll in the clip.
It was like any other day. Work, the gym, returning home to his family, his wife and his 5-month-old at home waiting for him. But as he was unlocking the door, two armed thugs shoved a gun in his face, tried to push their way through the door. Well, it was then that he did what any responsible concealed handgun permit holder would do. He decided to defend himself and his family, and a gunfight ensued. Now, everyone's safe, but those armed robbers are still on the loose. But even worse, perhaps, California has revoked that man's permit to carry. Again, the Golden State values strike again. Joining me now is Vince Ricci, the man who defended his family, and Coley Anwar, who's a Second Amendment advocate and attorney. Vince, let me start with you. Tell us very briefly, what happened.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. I was coming home after a day of work in the gym, exactly like you said, and the thing I never thought was going to happen happened. I turned around to the surprise of two armed gunmen trying to get into my home. And the first thing I thought was my family, and there's no way I'm letting this happen. And do you carry regularly? I know you're a concealed carry permit, but do you carry regularly?
Oh, wow.
At the time, I wasn't really carrying because I never thought that I was going to have to use it. I never wanted to know that I thought that this was really going to happen. But after seeing this uptick in crime and homelessness, and it just became commonplace that robberies were going to happen, I said, this is a responsibility I need to take. But it's not even a CCW matter because I was on my own property. I was walking in to the driveway and entryway of my house. So this petty attempt for them to strip me of my ability to carry outside of my house for something to happen on my property, it's just unexplainable.
I see what you're saying. Well, DC has really strict concealed carry rules. You have to register one gun at a time. So is the gun you used registered as a concealed carry?
Yes, the gun, a Glock 26, is registered as my one concealed carry, which at the time, like I said, I never really thought I was going to have to use it. And I went about it the right way. I acquired it the right way. They granted me the right to carry. Now they're stripping me with the men at large that were looking for me and not giving me the ability to defend myself. And I hope Sheriff...
Well, Colin, what's the reason?
Go ahead.
What's the reason?
mean, I think it's pretty blatant what the reason is. California has had a notorious reputation for being anti-gun and anti-anybody being able to carry a firearm unless you're part of the government somehow. So this aspect of them stripping him of his ability to carry a firearm, especially when we're talking about a situation that happened on his property, it just reeks of their hatred for citizens, law-abiding citizens for that matter, being able to carry firearms to protect themselves.
Well, I have to say, Vince, Newsom did propose that 28th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which would, preserve the language of the Second Amendment, but then add a whole bunch of new requirements and limitations to gun ownership in the United States that, they claim is, very, very popular and people would want. But he's notoriously anti-gun rights. I don't care what he tries to say. Newsom is one of the worst. In California, I think it's the second most, poorly rated state as far as gun rights in the United States. I think we'll even put up a graphic that shows us the worst states for gun rights in the United States. But Vince, is there any doubt in your mind that California at this point, especially where you live, it's a pro-criminal jurisdiction? It's not pro-gun rights, people. It's pro-criminal.
Absolutely. The sheriff's attempt now at coming after me is petty. I think Luna should step up and actually represent the citizens, the good giving back citizens that give back through the community and not partake in the criminal activity that's happening, because they're not getting arrested. They're not going after them. They're trying to restrict me.
So here you are, a law-abiding citizen defending your family, your home, yourself. You did everything right, and in response to that, the law, I'm taken aback by this. You're doing everything right, and the law-abiding citizen is the one that's being held accountable, right? Because I guess they can't find the criminals to hold them accountable. So if we can't find the criminals, let's go find the law-abiding citizen who called the police to help him out, and let's suspend or revoke his CCW so he doesn't become a threat on the street carrying a firearm. Let that marinate. Let that marinate. I don't know what to say about that. I've got so many ridiculous analogies here, and it really does kind of hit home and just really upsets me that somebody who is following the law is punished per se. Concealed carry, that's not a constitutional right. It's your constitutional right to bear arms. That's what the Second Amendment says. Concealed carry is a privilege granted state by state based on their laws and how they conduct their legal business. So, LA, they have their their process. Every state has their own process. Every state that allows people to conceal carry. And this gentleman, he went through the process of getting a concealed carry, and it's upsetting that Vince is his name. It's upsetting that Vince has to go through this. It's upsetting that Vince had to go through almost getting robbed, shot. Who knows what would have happened if he didn't have a weapon on him, right? Which concealed carry allows you to do. But in this instance, I think this is petty, right? Because concealed carry, it pertains to when you're not on your property, right? If you're not on your property, and you want to carry concealed, this needs to be, you need to have a permit for it in those states, okay? In certain states that require concealed carry permits, you can carry concealed. This man was at his front door and defended himself. He was on his property, beyond his boundaries, right? I mean, within his boundaries, and not on the street. So in turn, the LAPD or Sheriff's Office. I'm not too sure, but I think they're separated. The LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office, I think they're separate. Again, my apologies for not doing an in-depth research, but I'm still shocked that anything like this, would or could happen where your concealed carry permit that allows you to carry a gun would be revoked under these circumstances. And the worst part is, it's like they know where this guy lives. And I say this I've said this in previous videos. They know where this guy lives. He doesn't know where they live. So they can easily sit outside of his home, wait for him to leave, follow him, and whether it be to the gym. He's already expressed that he goes to the gym and things of that nature. He's become a bigger target than he was before, right? Just listening to the previous interviews and the current interviews, he's a man that is prepared for anything, and he's prepared to protect his family. Shout out to the Bronx, BX, and he does. It's not just firearms training. He does other types of training. And that's the due diligence that anyone who's serious about protecting themselves and their families, would go through. And I'm not saying that you're less of anybody or anything if you don't. I'm just saying that it can happen anytime, anywhere.
Hey, yo, just get shot every day, P.
And it's beyond me to understand why there's so many people against protecting themselves, right? Holding their own personal protection and perseverance in high regard and doing what needs to be done on their own. I'm looking forward to getting a lot of commentary on this video, particularly from those that either don't carry or don't think that people should be allowed to carry. I want to get your perspective on this situation. This situation just happens to be one that has made it to mainstream media, but this happens every day. This happens all the time, but it just doesn't get there. It doesn't get to the media. Just Friday, here in Charlotte. When I say here in Charlotte, I'm talking about across the street from my home. There was a unmarked police car across the street from my home, an unmarked police car at the corner at the stop sign, and then patrolling was two marked police cars patrolling. Something had happened in the area, the local Food Lion, and it happened to the point where they cut off an entire road, a major artery going to one of the major highways. And they cut it off, and they cut it off for hours, and there was a helicopter circling. Never heard anything about it on the news. And for it to have a whole police department, and when I say a whole police department, we live in an unincorporated Charlotte, so basically we're on the borderline where we're not necessarily patrolled there unless something happens. Key word is unless something happens. So they call us when something happens, and they, respond. Not a knock on them, but at the end of the day, key word or words here is call us when something happens. Listen.
This has been another episode of Pause. I want you to take a moment, pause, and think about it. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support.
Citizen to a citizen, boom. Citizen to a citizen, boom.
You're still here. It's over.
Citizen to a citizen, boom.
Another one.
Citizen to a citizen, boom.